Many thanks for joining us. Our sign language interpreter at the bottom end of your screen is Meresha Owiti. I'm Linda Ogutu. 3 judges of the appeal court have refused to excuse themselves from hearing an appeal case by the Teachers Service Commission. The judges say the teachers union did not provide any reason to warrant their removal from the case.
After the teachers' unions asked for a review of the previous 3-judge bench, claiming that the final decision of the judges may not be independent. But even with the newly constituted 5-judge bench of Justices Erastus Githinji, Martha Koome, Philomena Mwilu, Festus Azangalala and Professor James Odek, the unions presented a fresh application seeking the dismissal. They claimed that the bench was handpicked and micromanaged to rule in favor of the government.
Allegation now, the appellant is saying that because of the stakes for the government in this case, because of the desperate situation it faces, because the government has lost face in this case, that's a given. There are judgments of the courts that is defined, and the only option is in prison. The only court that can release the government from prison is this court. And that's what my role is. The applicant is saying that the president of the court has especially or handpicked the judges who are listening to this case with specific instructions now. In light of the defeat after defeat or failure after failure the government has suffered in all levels of the courts.
Allegations that the Teachers Service Commission termed baseless and disrespectful, accusing the unions of intentionally delaying court proceedings.
Hook or crook, you are left with one position, that there is a judgment against TSC. And because you have a judgment against TSC and you have obstructed the hearing of the appeal, you can go to high pedestal and say this, that TSC is in contempt of court. That is the forensic and strategic advantage intended by this application.
There is a suspicion and apprehension that you were handpicked and you are being micromanaged. I shudder to think what that means when it is said of a judge of the judicature of the Republic of Kenya.
The judges, however, refused to recuse themselves from the case and instead dismissed that application. They cited lack of proof to the allegations made by the teachers' unions.
For avoidance of doubt, the 3 judges of this court, the subject of this application, hereby find no good reason to recuse themselves. We dismiss the application and hereby order that the consolidated appeal shall proceed immediately for hearing before the 5 judges presently constituted for this matter and causing the appeal.
Following that ruling, senior counsel representing the Kenya National Union of Teachers, Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi, recused himself from the case, wishing not to participate in any further proceedings.
I don't think it would be fair for me to continue this matter, and I respectfully ask the court.
The court then commenced on the hearing of the appeal by the Teachers Service Commission, which sought to reverse the 50% to 60% pay increase. The hearing will continue on the 30th of September. Despite several applications to dismiss that appeal by the Teachers Service Commission, the Court of Appeal has finally commenced on that hearing of the appeal. But even as both parties continue to seek the relief of the court, students in public schools continue to suffer as the teachers' strike now enters its 5th week. Michelle Ngele, KTN News.
There has been several hardline positions from the government, from teachers, from the TSA over that stalemate in the education sector. TSC, making it very clear that the 50 to 60% pay rise is not sustainable. Teachers saying if they do not get that money, they're not making their way back to school, back and forth in the corridors of justice. So tonight on KTN Prime, we're asking for your opinion. What do you think? Should government and teachers revive dialogue over pay? Should government and teachers revive dialogue over pay? Let us know what you think. You can tweet us at KTN News. You can tweet me directly at Linda Ogutu. You can send a short message to the number 22155. Remember, that line is absolutely free for you. Let us know what you think on that particular big question tonight. Now, nearly 5 days after hundreds of Muslims perished in Mecca following a deadly stampede that claimed the lives of 6 Kenyans, the Supreme Council of Kenyan Muslims is now appealing to the Saudi government to offer compensation for the victims. The council says the Saudi government should extend a helping hand to the families of the deceased as a gesture of goodwill. Timothy Otieno has the details.
It's a tragedy that has claimed the lives of hundreds of Muslims from more than a dozen nations. Thursday, the 24th of September, saw more than 769 people lose their lives after a stampede in Mina, Saudi Arabia, just a few kilometers from the holy city of Mecca. 6 of them were Kenyan pilgrims, and the Supreme Council of Kenyan Muslims now say 8 more Kenyan pilgrims still remain unaccounted for.
Kila mwaka idadi zinazidi, na alhamdulillah wa Saudia wamejaribu kiasi yao ya kupanua uwanja wa Al-Kaaba, kupanua barabara za Mina na Arafa, lakini sasa kilichoandikwa na Mwenyezi Mungu ni lazima kiwe tu.
The council is now appealing to the Saudi government to offer more than just condolences in the wake of a tragedy worst of its kind in more than 25 years.
Requesting, we are pleading to the government of Saudi to compensate those who have died and those who have been hurt.
More than 2 million people from around the world arrived in Saudi Arabia last week for the Hajj festivities, 6,000 of whom were Kenyans, and the Supreme Council is demanding answers over the deaths.
We are reserving our comments until our people come back from Hajj. The Hajj mission comes and gives us full report. And on that report, we are going to sit down, analyze it, and then advise, because we member Hajj mission is a delegation from Kenya to Hajj for the Hajj affairs.
The Hajj pilgrimage, which requires Muslims who are physically and financially capable to attend at least once in their lifetime, is no stranger to disaster. In 1990, a similar stampede killed 1,426 Muslims, while in 2006, 363 pilgrims lost their lives at the event. It is often believed that pilgrims who die while undertaking the Hajj festival will get a direct entry into heaven. Timothy Otieno, KTN News.
Let's bring you back to the country. In 2012, 16 people, including 3 children, died along the Elgeyo escarpment after heavy rains pounded the region. The tragedy preceded another one in Marakwet East, where 14 people in Kitony village were killed by massive landslides in 2010. Now, even as the impending El Nino rains are set to cause landslides in that area, a group of people are yet to be settled by the government since 1997. Masikandie reports.
The beautiful Elgeyo escarpment of Tingwa Hills has an ugly side known only too well by residents here. The terrain is notorious with landslides. The worst ever was brought about by the El Nino rains of 1997. Jelagat Kibet was there that fateful day and remembers how the earth moved, causing destruction.
Mvua ilinyesha kabisa, maporomoko ya ardhi ikatokea, tukatatizika, manyumba yakachukuliwa. Hata manyumba yenyewe mahali popote palikuwa maji, hakuna mahali pa kupikia, hakuna mahali pa kulala, watoto hawakai vizuri.
Tuliambiwa ya kwamba mkae hapa hali mkingoja permanent solution, lakini kutoka siku hiyo mpaka wa leo hatujapata solution ya permanent, kwa maana tunaishi temporary tena katika hali ambayo mnaona tunaishi hapa sasa.
Jelagat is among the over 500 residents at the El Nino Campsite Center in KO South, but this settlement was meant to be temporary. It's been too long a stay here that is now a village with a new name, a name that brought them here, El Nino Village.
Tulipohama hapa kwa sababu El Nino ndio ilituhamisha tukuja hapa, sasa ndio hiyo jina El Nino ndio ikapatiwa hapa. Ndio sasa inaitwa El Nino kwa sababu watu wa El Nino, watu ambao walihamishwa na El Nino walikuja kuishi hapa. Lakini zamani ilikuwa inaitwa Gimoron.
Inside the El Nino Campsite Hotel, residents deliberate over the recent announcement by the Meteorological Department that El Nino rains set to pound the country beginning October. Fears from memories of a community that says theirs is to wait as they seek alternatives to the catastrophe.
Hatuna raha hata kidogo, hata sasa tukiwa hapa tuna wasiwasi mwingi sana. Kwa sababu hatujui pale ilikuwa msitu na hapa tumeishi katika msitu. Hatujui kama hii itangolewa pia itumalize hapa ama tutabaki.
Some have decided to move. The little rains experienced here is already creating cracks on the grounds.
Hata mnaona bado ziko manguo zake, ziko vitu hata hajamaliza zote kusibeba. Na wale amehamia pale ni shamba tu, ameomba tu mtu auziwe pointi moja aishi katika nyanda za sehemu za chini za usalama.
For many others, El Nino Village is the only home their children know, one that will change if only the government relocates them.
Karibu miaka 20. Watoto ambao tumewazaa wamekuwa wakubwa, wamekuwa wazee, wametaka mahitaji kama sisi pia.
Reports in the area indicate over 60 people have been killed due to landslides since the 1997 El Nino rains, with geologists declaring the Elgeyo escarpment unfit for human settlement. Masika Ndiye, KTN News, KO South.
Let's cross borders into Tanzania. The election period is a particularly challenging one for persons with albinism in Tanzania. It is said that witch doctors are in constant search for people with albinism as they use their body parts to lure politicians seeking a guarantee of their success at the ballot box. Here's KTN News' Francis Ontomwa with the story.
Akakata mkono wa kwanza wa kulia, akaukata, akautoa, akamtupia mwenzake.
Mimi hao watu nishawasamehe kwa sababu mimi namshukuru Mungu niko hai mpaka wakati huu.
Sad confessions of betrayal by skin color. Movements here dictated by limited space in the small room. A place these women now call home and forced to spend all their time from dusk to dawn. It's the only safe haven in a treacherous world. They are survivors of an extended onslaught targeting persons with albinism in Tanzania. Their limbs were chopped off. Lucky to live and tell the story is 32-year-old Mariam Stafford, a mother of one, who's been at the rescue center for more than 4 years. The day she lost her limbs is still as vivid as daylight.
Aliponiweka lile panga la kwanza kwenye mkono huu alioanza kuukata, yani nilipata nguvu za ghafla, kwa hiyo tukawa tunagombana sana, yani tunagombana sana. Akawa anasema sisi hatutaki kitu chochote, tunataka tu mikono, tunataka tu mikono. Kwa hiyo wewe tulia tukate mikono tu, hatutaki kitu kingine, tunataka tu mikono. Basi aliponiangusha chini ndo akaanza kukata huu mkono wa kushoto.
Mariam was rescued together with her young son and brought to this center under the same sun, an organization that fights for the rights of people living with the condition. Once in a while, they find time to bond, though it's not hard to notice that the young boy still harbors hard feelings on the merciless men who took away his mother's hands.
Mungu anatufundisha na Mungu anatuambia tusamehe 7 mara 70. Na ukimsamehe mtu, ukimtoa mtu rohoni, ndipo utaweza kuishi maisha ya amani.
This is the room where Mariam Stafford and other people living with albinism have been brought for protection. We are under strict guidelines not to reveal where we are reporting from, but just show you what happens in this room. And when Mariam's spirit feels low, she finds strength in Kola Lusanya, the 19-year-old from Shinyanga who suffered almost a similar ordeal.
Nilishtuka usiku. Nilipata maumivu ya ghafla tu kama naota vile. Nikashtuka usiku, nalia. Sasa ninashtuka hivi, nakimbia kwa wazazi wangu. Watu wakakimbia. sijawafahamu lakini kwa sura, lakini mimi niliona ni tochi tu basi.
Vicky Ntatema is a renowned journalist in Tanzania. In 2010, at the time working for BBC, she won the prestigious Journalist of Courage Award for a story that highlighted the killing of albinos in Tanzania. Today, she has dedicated her work to this cause.
I wouldn't say that it's poverty, because people who pay for those organs of persons with albinism are rich people who in Tanzania can afford an arm or even a hand or blood of a person with albinism or even hair for $2,000. That's the starting price.
It's particularly unsafe for people with albinism during the electioneering period. We learned that during such times, they hunt for their body parts by which doctors normally scales up to be used in rituals to win votes for politicians.
For me, for someone to stand up and say that I'll fight with you for the rights of persons with albinism, I'll make sure that persons with albinism are protected. I'm asking them, where have you been? Where were you when persons with albinism started to disappear? When the media started reporting about the killings of persons with albinism?
Statistics by Under the Same Sun indicate that in Tanzania, albinos represent 1 in every 1,429 births, making one of the highest numbers in Africa. There are no clear laws in place to protect persons with albinism, and often the wheels of justice never spin full circle.
Unajua wale wanaotukata sio kwamba wao ndio wanaofanya hiyo biashara. Kuna watu wakubwa wanaowatuma. Sasa watu wakubwa mimi ndio naotamani kuwajua. Natamani sana niwaone na niwafahamu, niwajue kabisa, nione sura zao, ni binadamu wa aina gani ambao wanakosa roho za ubinadamu ndani yao, ambao wamegeuka kuwa wanyama.
It's a feeling shared by most Tanzanians. The next administration not only protects albinos, but also sets up tough laws that will instill deterrence on the rampant killings. Francis Ontomwa, KTN News, Dar es Salaam, Tanzania.
Ni binadamu wagani ambao wanawauza binadamu wenzao. Quite unfortunate story there from Tanzania. Let's now cross borders into Uganda. And Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni submitted his nomination papers before the Election Commission as he prepares to face a growing number of opponents seeking to replace him as president in 2016 general election. Now the commission had set Tuesday as the deadline for the submission of papers. Let's get details from our Ugandan TV partner NBS.
Is 540. In a last and seemingly tactical move, the ruling National Resistance Movement Party chose the last day of returning forms to fulfill the legal requirements of submitting signatures to the Electoral Commission.
1,986.
The team, led by the party's national vice chairman Alhaji Moses Chigongo, delivered over 600,000 signatures collected from all districts across the country.
Shiboga 1,750, Tankwanzi 1,321.
This sets the ball rolling for a presidential contest likely to create a three-horse race between the incumbent, his former confidant Amama Mbabazi, and FDC strongman, retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye. The NRM says the bulk of signatures is a sign of might of the party, referred to as a mass party, especially as defector NRM stalwart Amama Mbabazi collected a paltry 38,000 signatures.
Many of our supporters wanted to sign, and that's why we have brought many signatures here, more than beyond what is required. But we are confident that we have finished that part, and we just want to appeal to our supporters to bear with us.
The nominations are expected to take place between 5th and 6th of October. Sabit Joseph, NBS Sunset.
Back home, Kenya's National Assembly resumes its session today after a one-month break, with an impeachment motion against the president expected to feature in this session. The opposition has also proposed radical changes to the budget, seeking to raise funds to pay teachers in public schools currently on strike over pay rise row.
The Kenya National Assembly has resumed its session with a full in tray of issues. there is a critical motion of impeachment against President sponsored by the opposition. And now Suba Member of Parliament John Mbadi is seeking radical changes in the budget in order to pay teachers in public schools who are currently on strike.
This amount, what it was meant to achieve was to pay or make salary adjustments. This was supposed to follow after the Salaries and Remuneration Commission will have completed, so to speak, the exercise of job evaluation.
Mbadi also seeks to collect 4 billion shillings from the National Youth Service Kitty, saying that they need to cut some of the operational costs. The NYS received 8 billion shillings more from the 17 billion received in the previous year. Also in the appropriation bill, the opposition member of parliament wants all ministries to cut their budgets by 2% in order to fund the 17 billion shillings needed to pay teachers.
We apply a little austerity measures. Actually, if you look at 2%, it's not so much, so to speak, in terms of cutting down on our traveling expenses, austerity as a country, and many other recurrent votes that can easily be cut.
If you can look at security and NSIS, there's a huge budget when we don't need.
Development projects are said to be affected if MPs approve Mbadi's approval of 13 billion shillings to be channeled into paying teachers, bringing a total to 33 billion shillings.
I realized that by the end of August, when we should have absorbed at least 16% of the development budget, we have only absorbed 3% of the budget.
The buck stops with the budget committee.
CORD has given radical proposals to pay teachers, and on Thursday the coalition is expected to hold a parliamentary group meeting where the issue is expected to feature. Francis Mtelaki, KTN News, Parliament Buildings.
You're watching KTN Prime. We thank you for staying with us. Let's remind you of our big question tonight. We're asking you if you think the government and teachers should revive dialogue over pay. Do you think the government and teachers should revive dialogue over pay? Walter's World says, I think they should. We as students really need our teachers back. I'm assuming, Walter, you're a student. We hope this goes well, especially for you and your colleagues. Paul Mwani says, TSC stop behaving as treasury. TSC is independent commission, but it seems to be sympathizers of government. Kitili Dominic says, no, teachers should just go back to school. Why boycott classes until now? Finally, and Thanet says, yes, it is important for government and teachers to revive dialogue. That's the only solution. Finally, Ike Ojuok says, how do you dialogue a matter pending before the court? Not unless the government withdraws the case. Just some of your opinion on our big question tonight, whether or not you think the government and teachers should revive that dialogue over pay. We are taking a short break. We have more news coming your way. Stay with KTN Prime. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with KTN Prime. Let's now take you to the United Nations General Assembly, where Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta and his Nigerian counterpart Muhammadu Buhari are asking the international community for assistance in fighting terror. They spoke at the United Nations General Assembly in New York, where Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe cautioned the West against imposing gayism on Africa.
We'll continue to work closely with the Somali National Army, but despite the threat posed by Al-Shabaab on Kenya, we will continue to stand firm in support of the Somali government and the people of Somalia. Kenya therefore calls on the international community to support the federal government of Somalia in securing its territory. The crisis in South Sudan remains an issue of great concern, not only to Kenya, but the IGAD region, as well as the larger international community. Kenya welcomes the recently signed peace treaty and calls upon both parties to seek a peaceful solution to the conflict, and urges the international community, especially the United Nations, to support the IGAD Plus process and other initiatives geared towards the realization of comprehensive, just, and sustainable peace in South Sudan through the enforcement of the peace and security arrangements, support for the institutions of governance and democracy.
Boko Haram's war against the people of Nigeria, Chad, Niger, and Cameroon may not attract as much worldwide attention as the wars in the Middle East, but the suffering is just as great and the human cost is equally high. This is a war about values, between progress and chaos, between democracy and the rule of law. Boko Haram celebrates violence against the weak and the innocent, and deplorably they hide behind their perverted interpretation of Islam.
We equally reject attempts to prescribe new rights that are contrary to our values, norms, traditions, and beliefs. We are not gays. Cooperation and respect for each other will advance the cause of human rights worldwide. Confrontation, vilification, and double standards will not.
It's the second day of the week. Let's take a look at business updates. I'm Joy Doreen Bira. The rains continue to beat Mumia's sugar, with the sugar miller sinking further into losses. In the full year ended June 2015, the sugar miller has doubled its loss for the period to 4.6 billion Kenya shillings. According to Mumia's management, a combination of factory inefficiency, low cane supply, and cash flow constraints all worked against the sugar miller. Revenue fell to 5.5 billion Kenya shillings from 13 billion Kenya shillings a year earlier on the back of a lower sugar and ethanol sales. Breaking down the revenue, sugar sales fell 60% to 4.6 billion shillings, with income from ethanol dropping to 772 million Kenya shillings. Electricity sales dropped 74% to 59 million shillings from 230 million the year before. Key focus for the miller going forward will be the restructuring of its debt as well as improving its farmer engagement to improve cane supply. Back in June, the government advanced a 1 billion shilling bailout to Mumias to help it lower its debt burden and has since paid off farmers. And Central Bank of Kenya Governor Dr. Patrick Njoroge has hit out at commercial banks and local forex traders for causing unnecessary panic in forex market, adding that this has been detrimental to the performance of the Kenya shilling against the US dollar. KTN's Charles Gitonga has more.
In his first ever address to the press during his 97 days tenure as the boss of the Central Bank of Kenya, Dr. Patrick Njoroge appeared prepared to give an account of what he has been doing to bring change to the institution, whose primary mandate is formulating monetary policy, promoting price stability, and issuing currency. And while he had a lot to say concerning his grand plan to upgrade the CBK to international standards, the weakening of the shilling appeared to be his more pressing issue. The shilling has depreciated by close to 15% against the US dollar this year. CBK has in the past pointed this to the strengthening of the US economy and decline of tourism and exports, but now the governor seems to have another reason for this, one that is not driven by demand and supply of dollars in the market.
Market players may act in ways that will actually lead the exchange rate to move, not because there's excess demand, but just because they're expecting it to be much higher, whatever it is.
According to Dr. Njoroge, local banks and forex traders should stop sending wrong signals to the market and act in a manner that ensures stability. Towards that end, the CBK is pursuing talks with commercial banks and forex traders and will soon enforce disciplinary measures for incompliant players.
We all appreciate that nobody, even in the context of freedom of speech and things like that, nobody has a right to shout fire in a crowded theater. So here as well, you know, if you don't have data, then don't shout fire. If you cannot see the fire, don't shout fire.
The central bank believes that the measures deployed by the Monetary Policy Committee so far guarantee stability of the currency going forward. In July, the MPC raised the central bank rate from 10% to 11.5% and Kenya Bankers' reference rate to 9.87%. This month, they held steady due to decreased inflationary pressure from 6.6% in July to 5.8% in August.
It is clear that it's making those policies are having the intended effect.
The governor added that the institution has enough reserves to deal with oncoming shocks. The central bank currently has $6.1 billion worth of reserves, equivalent of 4 months of import cover. Secondly, CBK has arrangement with the International Monetary Fund to access up to $610 million should the current reserves get depleted. Charles Gitonga, KTN News.
Technology is the key driver of business success across all sectors, and in Kenya, the last 2 years have seen tourist numbers drop, prompting players in the hotel industry to come up with more aggressive ways of marketing services to clientele. On the premiere episode of Techspo, Ole Sereni Hotel, one of the business hotels in Kenya, has developed an application that eliminates paperwork while giving access to services with just one click.
My name is Aziz Musaji. I'm the marketing and PR manager for Ole Sereni Hotel.
My name is Steve Chege. I'm more of the visionary and the marketer for the Mind Experience.
My name is Evan Omondi. I'm a software engineer. I've been doing it for 4 years now.
When I went to India, I had meetings with different hoteliers from top hotel brands like Hilton, the Marriott, the Taj, and I met a gentleman from one of the Hiltons there, and he was telling me on how they are saving costs on print in marketing and how they've gone electronic. And like we have social media, you have electronic marketing within the hotel. The app was one of the tools that they use. And I found this quite fascinating because it had all the information for the hotel, and a client can just download the app.
The terms from Ole Sereni was that they needed an app that would demonstrate, the whole idea of Ole Sereni. But the terms were we needed to finish it within a specific time frame because we wanted to start marketing it.
To present the quote to them, they offered a negotiation, and we settled on an amount that we thought favored everyone.
It's pretty simple. You just download it on the Android Google Play Store. It's for free, and it gives you an overview of the hotel, how many rooms it has, the kind of rooms. It gives you an overview on the restaurants we have, the banquet facilities we have, and it also allows you to book. You can book, at the moment you can book a table from each of the restaurants. You can book any room from a single room, superior room, deluxe room, club room, and a suite. You can also sign up to our health club through the app, and you can also sign in through the gourmet club through the app.
Hotels are now embracing technology. For instance, Ole Sereni is now ditching the hard copy menus and embracing the iPads.
70% of our clients are coming from across the ocean. And these are the kind of clients who are continuously staying in different kind of hotels, upmarket hotels, business hotels, city hotels, from New York to London to Shanghai, those kind of places. So it's our effort to make sure that when they come to this part of the world, they are getting the same kind of technology or same kind of service level, same kind of product. So basically it's us trying to keep up with pace of where the whole market is going. There is always a kind of a thought process in the head, okay, I've ordered something, I don't know how I'm going to get it, or I don't want this kind of a topping, I want this thing on the side. So what we have done is that it's not just a menu on an iPad, it actually has the actual images of the actual food. We have done an extensive photo shoot of what we are actually serving.
So with just an application that one can access on their cell phones, one is able to order online and at the same time reserve their rooms online without any complications. Joy Doreen Bira, KTN. Human resource practitioners will soon need to have professional licenses to practice. This follows the vetting process done earlier this year to weed out fakes in the profession. Human resource managers will have to adhere to the published code of conduct when recruiting staff, nurturing talent and applying disciplinary measures. The Institution of Human Resource Management, which currently has around 4,000 registered members, will be conducting online elections for new council members, and the elections, which will be held from the 23rd to the 26th of November, will allow the institution to partner with different players like the Federation of Kenya Employers to raise the profession's profile. According to the institution, persons seeking to obtain or renew a license must be a member of the institute, performs human resource management duties and responsibilities in an organization, or offers human resource consultancy.
In the profession, and the chairperson will be elected nationally, and that will be somebody who will have done a minimum of 15 years in the profession. And that just shows again what we are looking for in terms of the criteria for membership.
And that's it for KTN Business. For more news, log on to our website, ktnnews.com or standardmedia.co.ke, or you can use our Twitter handles at KTN News, at KTN Kenya. And my name is Joy Doreen Bira. Thank you all for watching. Up next is the Sport Update with Lynn Washira.
A very good evening and a warm welcome to tonight's edition of KTN Sports. I'm Lynn Washira. We kick off the bulletin in matters rugby, where despite preparing under minimum resources, the national sevens team, the Kenya Lionesses, are still confident of bagging an Olympic slot despite missing out on automatic qualification during the African qualifiers held in Johannesburg over the weekend. Kenya won all its Group B matches before losing to South Africa in the finals. Despite returning good results and of course finishing second in Africa at the just concluded Rio Olympics qualifiers in Johannesburg, the Kenya Lionesses arrived to the airport to a quiet reception with all the top brass at the Kenya Rugby Union missing at the airport, a clear picture of the minimum support the Lionesses get from the union.
Clearly we want more, but unfortunately we don't have. But we work with what we have and we push to the limits that we can.
If we had better these girls being taken care of well, then we will perform at our best.
The Kenya Lionesses won all their Group B matches to book a date in the final against host South Africa, who snatched the automatic continental slot to the Rio Olympics.
Big lesson that we learned is our structure. We need to sharpen our structure. We need to sharpen our attack. And moving forward, that will be a main component of our training and of our preparation for the next tournament.
Having beaten teams like Botswana, Tunisia, Madagascar in the group stages and Zimbabwe in the semi-finals, the team hopes to be the 12th and the final team to bag an Olympic slot during the repechage tournament early next year.
We still have a chance to make it to the Olympics, so we still have the psyche. We're waiting, we rest a bit, then continue with the training for the repage and hope all goes well.
Even as focus shifts to the men qualifiers in November, the Lionesses continue to press on.
It's not about money or anything or someone, it's passion. All the ladies here love this game, that's why they play it till now.
Over 1,200 participants are expected to take part in the 9th edition of the Family Bank Half Marathon set for Sunday in Eldoret. A total of 1.6 million Kenya shillings in prize money will be up for grabs. Meanwhile, Athletics Kenya chairman Isaiah Kiplagat has once again cautioned road races organizers to follow the right procedures before signing up participants.
Because half marathons are becoming too many in this country. Everybody is running one in the forest, in the bush. You know, like there was one in, is it Larry? Where people just got lost. They did not know even what they were doing. I think these are the kind of things that we need really to control. If we really to have a classified races that can be said our athletes are running and earning money.
No longer, because I bought Mortein Doom Power Guard, which kills 100% mosquitoes. Mortein Doom Power Guard kills 100% mosquitoes.
You're watching KTN Prime and we thank you for staying with us. Just before we wind this up, let's look at our big question tonight. We had asked you if you think the government and teachers should revive dialogue over pay. If you think the government and teachers should revive that dialogue over pay, we'll have the poll results on your screen just a bit. But for now, Teresa Tieno says a big no. You go to buy a shirt, seller asks for 300, you say you can pay 50, he accepts, and then you say you won't pay. Eric Nyaga says teachers didn't award themselves the pay rise. Discussion should be how to implement this amount. Kenneth Maloba says there is no need for dialogue. Government should pay teachers and stop taking us for a ride. Finally, Amos Kitui says no dialogue was there and it was fruitless. The government should obey court order and pay teachers. Your feedback on our big question tonight. We thank you for participating and indeed for watching KTN Prime. For those of you on KTN Home, that's where we leave it. Have a good night. But for those of you on KTN News, Worldview begins right now. Tonight we're talking about domestic violence. You can watch that on DSTV channel 274, GoTV channel 94, Zuku channel 14. We'd love to have you as a part of the viewers. You can participate in that show. We'll open our lines for you. And of course, you can tweet me at Linda Ogutu. Let's have this conversation going. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.